And welcome to a new episode of the Eastern Lariat podcast. Here's your news, notes, reviews, and opinions on the world of Japanese pro wrestling here on cagematch.net. I am your host, STRIGGA, as always joined by the front man of the Eastern Lariat podcast, Dylan Fox.
Is that true? I will say on the logo that I made, I still put your name first on there, STRIGGA.
Yes, that is correct. But you are actually, when you just count the total numbers of Eastern Lariat episodes that we have, not only for free, but also on our Patreon, patreon.com/Eastern Lariat, you have far more episodes than I have. So I guessed it would be a good time to go to call you the front man here.
I feel like someone else has adopted that as a nickname we may be talking about, but I will say this. Yes, literally on the Patreon, there's literally thousands of hours of stuff that I've recorded. So there's a lot of things. It's only, if anything else, it's proven that I have talked a lot over these years.
Yes.
But it's a real blessing. Want to personally start off, shout out everybody who wished me well after my nanny died. Rest in peace. She passed away a couple of weeks ago. I started the GoFundMe. It's pinned on my Twitter, and a lot of people have donated and helped out. My grandpa Ken, I know a longtime Eastern Lariat listeners know him pretty well. I told everybody too. He was super hype about the donations. It's helping us move out because we can't really live in the same apartment anymore with Nanny gone. So it's helping our living situation and helping Ken find a place to bounce back. And of course, I'll be there too. The whole family will honestly have come together over this. But you guys, my truest family, the Eastern Lariat family, have come together to help out. And it's been very important and very helpful for Ken himself, who had a very hard time. So as I promised, the day will come when whatever we do find, wherever we go, provided I don't just disappear one day into the wilderness, just out of loss of my sanity, which would have happened long before this. Don't worry. But one day we will do something. Me and Ken are going to talk about wrestling. He actually watched King of Pro-Wrestling with me yesterday, so he's back in the Japanese wrestling game. I'm back in the Japanese wrestling game. All of the people here. I cannot thank you from the bottom of my heart enough. And please, if you would like helping, the thing's still up. It'll be up until probably the end of the year, maybe the end of November if we are lucky and get a place to live sooner. But that's kind of like our rainy day fund, much like the name of our theme song for the show, Rainy Day. Although the lyrics of that song is more about fighting and stuff, which has nothing to do with any of this. But everyone listen to that. It is a banger of a song, though, to be fair.
It is. It really is.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Yes. I mean, it's really great. Through good and bad times, I really appreciate that this community is sticking together and helping you out in your tough times, Dylan. So
yeah,
really cool stuff. And I'm really glad that you're back here with me on the show. And I'm almost certain that even if you should one day disappear in the wilderness, we will still find a way to record Eastern Lariat, as we have done for almost 10 years now.
That's right. 8.5, coming up on the 9th year next year. So
yes,
we continue we have to be considered the longest running, show when it comes to this space that covers everything. I would say
that is, I will dispute that because I have another podcast that has been running for over 15 years with Straight Wrestling on cagematch.net.
Well, that is the longest running English speaking show.
Yes, I will give you that.
Yes, we cannot dispute Straight Wrestling and all of our friends in the German side of the cagematch.net podcast for sure. We always know Flash is around. Helping us in many ways, showing great kindness and love. his ways. Showing love whenever I post about Persona 3 on Twitter. Flash always backs me up on that as well, which I did play a lot like the last month as well. Um, and bouncing back with all kinds of stuff, even with Metaphor coming out, Dragon Age the Veilguard at the end of the month. This is a top time for video games as well. So I hope everybody out there is having fun with all of that, but mainly Flush because he is a video game genius and a podcasting expert as well. And you continue to do great things on your end as well, Strigga. And look no further, whether it's German, whether it's English, you have the longest running shows in both languages. So
yes.
You, once again, what is the German word for frontman?
Well, actually, we do use the same word for that. But there actually is it's frontman.
But it sounds so much cooler when you say it that way, though.
Yes, I don't know. Is that the same thing that tends to happen when you like listen to Japanese and you think, oh, these Japanese, that sounds so cool, and while the Japanese think, English and German, that sounds so cool. Let's use these terms. Like for example, Shuhei Taniguchi, he uses his Maybach Bomb 2 as the finish.
You always pop for the idiom German reference,
sure.
like gratuitous German, and who can blame you? And it does sound cooler, to be fair. So I think we all, regardless of our country of origin, can agree with that. That's another great thing about the Lariat is, like, such an international show. Like so many countries. There was that day I went down the whole list. There was like 50 countries that listed us. At one point, we were legitimately the #1 podcast in Ethiopia, wrestling podcast of any sort. So we love all of our listeners all over the world. We're very thankful for them. But we do have to admit that, using different languages always sounds cooler for some reason than your native language.
Yeah, it is. That is true. Yes. So, Dylan, since we've been talking about the front man already, there is indeed a new front man in Japanese pro wrestling after the very well labeled King of Pro-Wrestling show, I guess, because he beat the guy that you could say is the man in New Japan Pro Wrestling right now. I've seen tweets yesterday from Sumo Hall that indicated that there were up to 80% of the audience wearing LIJ merchandise. So Tetsuya Naito, whatever you think about this, his wrestling, he still connects to the crowd in a way that few other wrestlers in Japanese pro wrestling connect with the audience. And Zack Sabre Jr., the frontman of TMDK, he defeated Naito in 24-41 to claim the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship for the first time. And when you look at the lineage of this title, that has, of course, only started in 2021, and when you compare it to the old IWGP Heavyweight Championship, this once again is another staple of the title being much more open to different wrestlers holding it, because when we look at the IWGP Heavyweight title in recent years, there were usually 3 or 4 names that held the championship. But now, with the Zack Sabre Jr., we have another addition to the wrestlers holding that title. And he's going to carry that title to Royal Quest, where I will be in attendance, as a matter of fact. And he will make his first defense in his home country, which has to be really cool for him and for the British audience as well. So, Dylan, the main event right now has a rating of 8.44 on cagematch.net. I watched the match live, and there were certainly parts that, like in most IWGP World Title matches in recent time, that dragged and that felt not as dynamic as IWGP Heavyweight Championship matches used to feel. But when it came to the finishing stretch, both Zack and Tetsuya Naito really went into another gear and really presented a strong and exciting finishing stretch. But like I said, you could see once again, which has been one of the main talking points about New Japan Pro Wrestling, that Tetsuya Naito does have severe issues inside the ring.
Yeah, I just can't wrap my head around like this right now. This whole thing is just so weird to me. This whole Naito title reign. I mean, this has to be one of the weirder years of the world title in Japan that we've seen. There's been a lot of weird years lately, to be fair. But go back to the start of the year, go back to Moxley winning the title, and remember that? It only lasted a few months, but still. And now this. And now you defended, you had this Okan title defense, and it just ends, but right before Wrestle Kingdom. So what would you say about this year with the title overall? You mentioned that it's open to new people, but how do you think they've handled these new people with Moxley and Zack and multiple Naito runs? How do you think they've handled the title this year overall?
Yeah, well, Naito, of course, was new to this title, but of course was not new to the world title or to the heavyweight title itself. When it started with Sanada, who held the title for almost 300 days to begin with, and Naito overcoming him. But then I don't know, if Naito always seemed like the guy that is much, much better in the chase than in actually holding the title and running with the championship. The Moxley intermezzo, I guess you can call it that, with 79 days. We've also talked about that this year, was probably just designed to get some money out of the US with the yen being so low. Yes. And felt completely out of anything that New Japan does in their stories. I mean, John Moxley, we've also been over that. He presented himself as the guy that defended New Japan Pro Wrestling, while at the same time, all the guys in New Japan Pro Wrestling pictured him as an outsider that they have to beat. So that felt really disjointed. Then Naito wins the title back very unceremoniously at, Forbidden Door. Yeah. And has this one title defense over a really weak challenger that presented himself strongly, but still, though, this was not a title match that anybody believed Naito would lose. And he walks into King of Pro Wrestling in a weird manner, something that New Japan had not done in over 10 years, that the G1 Climax winner claims the spot at the October or September show. And now here we stand with Zack Sabre Jr. being on top with some challengers lined up, of whom I really am unsure if there is any one of those that come into consideration for being the challenger at the Tokyo Dome.
And that's a problem. Like, this title scene, it's a reflection of how poorly they've handled so many different things, that this is our world title scene. It's so weak. And really, the focal point, or the one that they want to be the focal point, is utterly rejected by your fan base, as we saw here. As far as the Okan match, I loved the pre-match video of that, where like Okan was hosting this gala party or something, and it was for like mangakas or something. Like the whole time, like Charlton was saying on commentary, like, he's cultivated these relationships in anime and manga, and I was like, what does this have to do with him being the main event guy of wrestling? And obviously the match, nothing to really write home about. This match with Zack, that is to say, despite all of this, I think it's cool for Zack to get the belt. He's been basically the most loyal foreigner that the company's had. He's been a guy that's well loved and respected, especially in the West, I would say, and English-speaking sources all over the world. Very highly regarded and loved and all of that stuff. The match kind of came together by the end. I definitely think this did nothing to change my negative opinion on Naito's abilities in the ring at this point. And it's not even abilities, it's just the mind may be willing, but the body just is not there anymore, I don't think. And I think it's kind of hard to take his offense that serious in a lot of these situations. So in one way, I'm happy about that. That is, the title's changing to Zack, and we'll see what they can do with that. Another point, do you think that it's possible, because I've seen this idea floated around, is it possible that they just don't do a world title match at Wrestle Kingdom? They have Naito and Hiromu main event, And then the day after, Zack defends the belt against an AEW guy, which is what we speculated on when I said when he won the G1 originally, that I think the only contender for him would be a AEW guy. Do you think that's possible?
I guess that's possible because New Japan apparently is throwing around ideas what to do on the road to the Tokyo Dome. Would that also imply that we get an AEW title match on the New Japan show instead?
That's the thing. I personally think you can do a world title match with Zack at the AEW show or whatever they're calling it, Wrestle Dream or whatever bullshit they're calling that.
Dynasty.
Yeah, Wrestle Dynasty. Yeah, they could still do that, but I think for the purposes of Wrestle Kingdom, and we're going to talk about the importance of that with something else that happened on the show that's going to make it in the forefront 2 years from now. I think it would be bad to not have the IWGP title defended on Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah. Like, I'm not against them doing a title match on the 5th, but the 4th needs the belt, in my opinion. I think it's better for the company. And again, maybe they don't feel that way, but for me, I think it's better. It's tradition that is always the main thing. But now, with how things look, you just said it yourself. The people we're getting are not main event dome guys, calibers. Yep. So we're just, and it's just a big mess. This whole main event scene. They have a lot of work to do going forward.
That is correct. But then again, Dylan, who is a main event guy that they could realistically put in a situation like that? Yeah. That is not Tetsuya Naito or Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. Like, there are no options that they have. So they're just making do the best they can.
I'm guessing there will be a world title match. I'm guessing it will be Naito and Shingo. That's my guess right now.
Or Zack and Shingo?
Zack and Shingo. I'm sorry. Yeah, Naito and Hiromu. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Zack and Shingo. That should be. I think that's the best option that's on the table right now.
I think it'll be Shota. They said. I mean, he got.
What do you think?
I mean, we've seen it before. I mean, this is kind of a very interesting parallel to Naito's original G1 win. That they're obviously playing that's obviously on purpose to me that they're going to do that. And again, maybe they will just back down this time and be like, okay. But it's hard because ultimately Naito became your biggest star after that, pretty clearly. So I think they're just going to roll with that. Shingo, again, I nothing against him as a wrestler. There's just no upside to that match, ultimately. Like, it's a match between two longtime guys. It'll be a fantastic match, I'm sure.
Sure.
But from the Japan fan base, I don't know.
Yeah, so after the match, after the main event, Sanada comes out first, Shingo Takagi joins, and Shota Umino joins as well. They are in the ring. All the 4 guys in the ring, and the crowd heavily boos Shota Umino. Why that happened, why every individually booed, that's up for the question, but it certainly did not look good for Umino. And it's a very strange stipulation right now. So if Zack Sabre Jr. defends against Sanada at Royal Quest, he will face Shingo Takagi. And if Sanada wins, Sanada defends against Shota Umino. That is what they said.
And that's another thing I noticed about this that kind of makes me worry about this title reign in general that I wanted to mention when they all came out. It's like, whoa, like we're setting up 3 different guys this close to Wrestle Kingdom for the belt. And like that to me tells me that this may not be a super long-term title
reign.
Maybe not. Like they're trying to cram in these defenses somewhat soonish, and and maybe it won't play out that way. That's fine. Again, these are all weak challengers on paper, to be honest. So maybe it'll be fine, and we'll move forward. I think it's interesting. This particular show is said to have done nearly 500 people less than the show here in April, with Tsuji facing Naito in the main event. To me, he is the one that should be placed in these positions, not these other people. With all due respect to them all, who again in ring wise, I think Sanada has greatly improved this year. You look at his G1 run and his match versus Finlay when he came back, and his match versus Yoshihashi after he lost the belt. I think he's done a lot better as a wrestler. Shingo, like super reliable. We know what he brings to the table. Umino is obviously not very popular at the moment, to be honest. But not just in Japan, but even among English-speaking fans, the reaction to him in the G1 was hyper negative.
Yeah.
So, but he's had great matches before. Like,
with
you
the right
can't take
opponents,
away,
he does. Yes.
yeah, you can't take away that he has had good matches in the past. And again, I'm not buying him as a world title person, but we're still at this point. And I think this is why I wish that Tsuji had won the G1 in the first place. They have to pick someone new at the end of the day. Like, it's not optional right now.
Yeah.
You have to go with someone.
And one of those matches that Umino really looked good in a G1 climax was the one with Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Zack is kind of like Shingo. Like, you know what you're going to get with him. He's super reliable. Can work a lot of different people and bring the best out of him. So I'm definitely a big fan of Zack in the ring right now. I think he deserves the title based on his status and his loyalty to the company, which we all know means a lot to this group. Do I think he's a long-term answer as the champion? I think I'm pretty skeptical, to be honest. I think that they need to find a native guy to really make, and not even just him, Naito. Like, this cannot continue. Like, this way this is going, he's not going to last at this point.
No. I don't think that this will be a long-term run either. But for a guy like Zack Sabre Jr., who had tournament victories before, but always came short when it came to winning the big one, he now is considered to be someone that actually won the big one. So you can always, from now on, go back to Zack Sabre Jr. being a true roadblock and a true danger to those that hold the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship.
Look no further than Sonata. That is right in last year.
Yes.
Like, same thing. I remember that match. Remember when he won the title against Okada? That match got this huge reaction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, had like 9.5 or whatever on Cage Match. And I didn't even think that, I mean, it was good, but I didn't think that was anything like super special. But the fans just had a great reaction to it. It was the first title win. Whenever you get a first title win of a long-term guy that you've really seen, like, we've seen Zack's struggles. Like, if you're a New Japan fan, you've seen where he came from at the start and his style, various ups and downs that he's had. Especially if you're even longer term fan, seeing him in Noah, especially if you're you who have seen him when he had that ridiculous hair, like in 2009.
The first ever WXW Unified World Wrestling Champion, beating Steve Douglas, who held the World Heavyweight title at that point, and Zack was the WXW Light Heavyweight Champion.
And look at that hair he had back then.
Yeah, the hair.
No, but and I've seen him not that far back, but in the Noah days, teaming with Ogawa as a junior heavyweight guy, and to see how he's ascended to the top of the company, how can you not love it? Like, as a fan, I think a lot of people in general, the reaction I saw after this show, it passed the vibe test. Like, a lot of people were happy. And it feels like they're very excited about where we're going with New Japan, which hasn't really been true much of this year. I think they've done a good job of turning things around from a reaction standpoint. And like I said, the vibes in general, I think, are a lot better now than they were, like, let's say, when the G1 started. I think there was a lot of uneasiness. But with Zack at the top, I think especially among English-speaking fans, the people are into it. And I think it's possible as well. Like, let's have a glass half full take on the Umino thing. Like, let's say they do go with him. You could have a situation where if the crowd is just so far against him that it leads to a very memorable environment for, like, whenever his match will be, whether it's at Wrestle Kingdom or not. We know he's going to get there, like, by hook or crook, ultimately. So that could lead to a very memorable thing. And hopefully, the best case scenario is that this reaction, again, very similar to Naito before him, can lead to a drastic change, and he could find himself in a way, which we've been saying, even when he had those good matches, we talked about it on this show. All he's doing is copying all these different people, like Moxley and Tanahashi and Ospreay. It's like you're taking and taking and taking, but you're not adding anything of yourself. And the run, we saw him come out in the motorcycle at the start of the year. Like, drop all that bullcrap. Drop the leather jacket. I don't agree with people who say that he should go on excursion to AEW again. I think that's part of the problem, is that he was too much about Moxley. He needs to really hone in on whoever he is and who he's going to be. And I think that's what this next run needs to signify for him, most importantly.
I agree. He definitely needs to change something. I like the motorcycle entrance, though.
Well, me too. I did. There was a charm to it. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. But dude has to find something that works for him. That's not Moxley. That's not Ospreay. That's not whoever it is going to be. He has to find himself. That's been the thing all year long. I was surprised. Not really surprised, but it was interesting that while the Never Openweight champion came out to challenge the new World Heavyweight champion, the Global Heavyweight champion did not, David Finlay. He defeated Hiroki Goto in 60 minutes, 58 seconds in a match that I would say on this show was my second favorite match. David Finlay, we've talked about him here before on the show in the past months. He's been really on a good roll. He's been on a good run as champion, as the Global Heavyweight champion. And I think when you look at how the crowd takes to him slowly but surely, he is convincing the crowd that he is actually the guy that should be in the position where he is right now, always working really strong, doing good work with whoever he is in the ring. Obviously had a great opponent with Hiroki Goto that led to a good match with both of these guys taking a good amount of punishment. And finally, of course, with the assistance of Gedo and the intrusion of him, finishing Goto and defending the title again, Finlay is in a good place right now.
Finlay is doing very good work. He's definitely... I personally, I really liked this match, don't get me wrong. I didn't think we needed the Shillelagh finish or anything like that, but it was still a really good match overall. I personally enjoyed his match with Yoshihashi more than this, to be honest. I thought there was a lot more to that match, in my opinion. This was a good, Finlay's really carved out a role as kind of a power guy now. They've really emphasized that a lot in commentary, and I think he's done a great job with it. And I think Yoshihashi was a better underdog player than Goto, which was more 50-50. I really, really enjoyed that. I thought that was a great match. I thought this was a very good match, and probably either the best or second best match on the show. The top two are very close to me, but they're both very good, I would say, and this is definitely one of them. My favorite part was afterwards, where Finlay was making fun of Goto's daughter or whatever, and then Goto was trying to console her. She was so sad that he lost.
She was crying.
Yeah, she was in tears over this. She believed in Goto, when much like many of us can only lead to tears in the past on there. But I like the build to this. I like that they gave us a good story with him going for revenge for Yoshihashi. I thought the finish was a little weak, but the match itself was very strong, as you expect. And he's been one of the better guys. Again, I think, much like Yoshihashi, Finlay had to go through what he did, where he had a start that, he didn't look great at the start.
Yeah,
and people carried that.
I was just going to say, you said, look at the IWGP World title and the weird run that the title has had this year. But if you think back to a guy like Nick Nemeth holding the title for 71 days, that wasn't a good start for this championship at all.
All the titles you could have criticism of right now in New Japan. Right. But you are right about that, though. But even, never mind the title, just him as a wrestler, I think we're going back years now. He was not pushed very strong for many years of his career. And I think a lot of people carried a rough start and kind of held on to it for too long after he had gotten a lot better. I think he's been good for a while now. If you look at his resume and a lot of his matches that he's had over the years.
And even if we go back to last year, we still were in that phase of him always getting start and stop runs.
And bad booking surrounded him for sure.
Yes, absolutely. But this title run right now, he has been on a very strong run and has looked very strong. This is one of these cases where you just look at the guy. He is winning matches. He is looking good. He's making fun of his opponents. It's not that hard.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job. Again, I think a lot of people, again, it's not necessarily about his push. It's more so people questioning his talent level, which is what I disagreed with in the past, because I've seen him have too many good matches in the past for me to not think that. I think, his look was a big problem for people as well. I think that people took that. And again, it's a very similar story to Yoshihashi, who was good many years before people accepted he was good. And I think Finlay is now at that stage where people have accepted him. Even on the English-speaking side, a lot of his critics have come around, so to speak, on him. And he's definitely, with this push, with the look, with his wrestling, and with his charisma, he's pulled it together a lot more now than he had it before. Before, I thought he was a good worker, but I could see why people wouldn't be that into him, to be honest, and not really be interested in anything he's doing. Right now, I think they've done a good job, and he specifically has really brought himself together in a good way. And now people have really turned the corner on him, and I'm very happy to see it, because I think he's worked really hard. And his wrestling, he's one of the more consistent guys right now in this company, I would say, of all the champions, in both not just having good wrestling matches, but also feeling like an integral part of these shows. Like now, like where it feels like he's not the main event, but he's always that very solid second from the top title with this. And who knows where he can go from here? It's really a question of what they see in him overall in terms of the booking wise.
Am I correct assuming that you also loved the Never Openweight Championship title match?
The Never title, it was a really good match. Again, I would say too short to be great, in my opinion, but it was very good. I probably liked that match the best on the show.
Yeah. So Roy Oiwa walking into this match with Shingo Takagi, both guys just hammering at each other, throwing bombs left and right. Oiwa with his big doctor bomb, Shingo always with his lariat, with a pumping bomber, and the last Falcon, the last of the dragon in the end. That was a very, very strong match in the mid card, and it once again showed you why we all are so high on Oiwa after coming back from his Noah excursion. That really did a lot for him, not only when you look at his wrestling, but also when you look at the character himself. They went back to the matches that these two had in 2021, and Oiwa sent out a tweet after this match here saying that he will train even more, become even bigger, and become even stronger to once again challenge Shingo Takagi. This is just a very good story. Shingo Takagi should be a great guy for Oiwa to look at as someone that he needs to overcome to make it to the next stage. So everything surrounding this was really, really good.
I think it does have to lose points for immediately going into the guardrails, like so many matches in New Japan.
Every single match in New Japan.
Yes, exactly. Like that's something that I wish someone would just like please don't go into the guardrails. Yeah. We've done it 10 million times. But as a match, it was good. I didn't think there was a lot to it, like like any strong psychology or anything like that. It was just a good match, like super well executed. Very interesting that it was so early on the card, which I totally disagree with overall. And I would have had Oiwa win personally. Like Shingo, again, I like Shingo fine, but he's not like he's gaining anything from this title run. Like he's just doing what he always does. We saw it with him and Hanare last month. Another one, like a fine match, like very hard hitting and cool and all that. But even exactly, like, it's the same stuff we saw a bunch of times, and even the fans were kind of chanting for Hanare more in that match than him.
Yeah.
I think Oiwa would bring a fresh coat of paint to this title and really get something good. But on the other hand, they also set up Kosei potentially getting a title shot.
Yes.
Versus Shingo, which could be a great dome match to me. Like if that's how it plays out. Like if that is the end game of this, is Fujita ends up winning the title, then you can scratch this criticism of Oiwa not winning. Because I think that's use one of these million titles you have to elevate people. Like what is so hard about that?
Actually, unsure if that could be a match for the Tokyo Dome. I think Shingo and Kosei Fujita though could be a great main event for Korakuen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm up for that. Like, I get it. Kosei, that would be a huge elevation from where
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
at. I'm cool with that. But just for them to have a match, I think would be great. And I think they do need to figure out something like with one of these titles, and I guess they're trying with the TV title, but we'll get to that. But this match is the best on the show. Long story short,
the TV title was not one of the best matches on the show. It was really
No.
rough, a really rough match, especially of course with Renarita and his shenanigans. I don't know, these three-way matches in New Japan, they are not doing it for me. And we have Renarita pinning Cobb, so you have to guess that Yodatsuji's role at Wrestle Kingdom will be to win the TV title of Renarita, and I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
He should be higher up on the card, but that's where we are.
I mean, these three-way matches, I'm not a big fan. I don't even remember any of the other ones, but I agree with you automatically. It's like whatever three-way match they did, I automatically didn't like it. Because this did not work. If it was the one at the Dome, I thought that was actually pretty well done. Like the one where Finlay won the global title, that was one of the better versions. Any other three-way match, I'm out, and I was definitely out on this one. But I do think there's potential for better singles matches in the future, just by virtue of it not being a three-way match. But yeah, the problem is with Narita, there's really no hope for him to be anything other than what he is. So at least right now, and I think that it's just going to be rough. And like you said, if that's Tsuji's goal for the Dome,
I mean, you have to assume, right?
I mean, that's how they set it up. But if that's true, then they've totally failed. He is the one that should be elevated the top of the card, not TV title with Red Narita. Like, he needs to be one of the main players going forward, if not the dude. Like, I think the guy. Like, I think he should be the one they go with as the world champion going forward, and to see what comes of that. Again, I'm not fully sold on his in-ring work as a great worker, but he's got everything else you need to be a top star, and he's a good worker. Like, he's not bad. Like, he could pass himself. He's better than what Naito's been bringing to the table on the these championship matches. So give him everything. He's got the look. He's got the charisma. He's got the upside. You want to see this man do good things. And the match itself, and another one where the same kind of criticism for this, you have to say, why were these matches so low on the card? like what's going on here?
It's interesting that the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title angle, it was not so much. It was not a match. Yeah. This really should have been like second or third from down the card. It was a weird card to begin with, because it started with Hiromu Takahashi and Mystico in a very okay singles match opener with, not a lot to it.
I worry about Hiromu.
Me too. Mystico did 2 or 3 cool moves. Hiromu really didn't do a lot. Man, this Hiromu and Naito match is not sounding good right now.
The thing is, this is really the only match they have with a main event level story to it. Regardless of what you say about Naito, and like I said, even Hiromu, I've been far from enamored with his work like this year. I think he's really lost a lot overall. But he did have a really strong match versus Hinare last month in one of those Road 2 shows to Destruction, and I think that was probably his best match he had. Perhaps working. I said I really wonder if motivation is his issue more than anything. You're working the opener here against a foreign player. Mystico's a legend, don't get me wrong, but
yeah, Hiromu was really fired up after the match, calling Mystico out for a match at Aniversario next year.
As Doki once said, Mystico does that in all of his matches, and Hiromu just took a page from him. Mystico challenged like 10 guys to a Anniversario match this year.
Hiromu challenged Mystico.
No, I'm saying he took a page out of his playbook.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. But like Mystico does that, so Hiromu wanted to get it on the action, like know who he was facing. But it was like a 6-minute match. Like they didn't even have a chance to do anything.
8
great.
minutes, yeah.
Yeah, 8 minutes. Yeah, like what? And then the opener, like what? Like what is? That was probably one of the more interesting matches on paper on the show. Mm-hmm. So yeah, this is such a weird.
Hey, they told Mystico you're opening the show with 8 minutes, and he said, "Cool." Cool.
And we know how that. Yeah, we know how that was going to go right away, knowing that. So yeah, I guess I can't put it all on Hiromu there. But yeah, let's hope that they can. And like I said, if that is the match, Hiromu versus Naito, which all intents and purposes it would be, they're gonna put so much into that match. I think there's no doubt it's gonna work. It's gonna be something all the LIJ fans think is great, and I think they're gonna put every ounce of effort to make it great for even. Again, I'm not an LIJ hater, but I'm not a super fan of theirs either. But I think they can make it work for me as well. So I'm into it. Even though the booking is very weird, and I haven't been blown away by either man in the ring for some time now.
Very high up on the card, we said it's the junior heavyweight title angle with Doki being unmasked by Sho, the greatest dumbass of them all that didn't really consider that a guy called Doki has red mist within his power.
Kishin Doki.
Yes, Kishin Doki. He spat the mist at Sho and finished him with the Suplex a la Luna in 14 seconds. Shortest IWGP junior heavyweight title match of all time. The best possible version of that match, I call it on Twitter, and it really was. I mean, where's the upside to Sho? Yoshinobu Kanemaru once again attacked Doki, so I thought, are we getting this again? But no. Luckily, Master Wato came out, not really looking like Master Wato, but looking like Hirai Kawato used to look, and I'm really, really hoping that they bring him back as such. And yeah, him challenging for the junior title sounds like a good time, and I'm thinking that he might be winning the title.
I do as well. I've really enjoyed this Doki reign so far. I thought the match with Kanemaru was very well done as well. Obviously, the Ishimori match was really strong. They made a point too, commentary, to really bring up how he's beat like all of the big names. Whether it was Hiromu, Desperado in the final of the tournament. Or for the title after his big win in the tournament. You've got Ishimori, who they mentioned as a legend, and Kanemaru, obviously, they put over strong. So they've really done a good job of hyping this Doki reign up as him beating all of the pillars of the division, pretty much. And now you get Wato coming back to a very healthy, like a welcome return, I would say, to everybody. Like you said, I love the new look. Which is really, like you said, kind of the return of his old look. Yeah. What's old is new again, and what was new was so bad. We love the old again. But I've always said, before he got injured, I thought Wato was one of the more improved guys. And he's a guy that when they did those 4 ways with the junior title at the Dome, he was the one that the fans rallied behind and wanted to see win. And they never did it, but now they have a really good chance to. I think that's a really good Dome match potentially, like him and Doki. I think Wato getting the title at the Dome would be a great start to a new title reign. So I'm in favor of that if they do that.
They do the title match at the next show, actually, at Power Struggle. They've announced the title match.
Well, I still think Wato should win. Go into the Dome as a champion, but who would that be? Like, who would be the challenger? I guess it doesn't matter who the champion is. If it's Doki or Wato, it would kind of probably be the same.
I don't know. Will Despy be back for that?
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure.
I mean, that makes sense. That would make sense more to me. That would make more sense if Doki was the champion. However, Desperado to return to fight him. Desperado came back to fight Wato in his first defense. I don't love the optics of that, to be honest, for various reasons. But yeah, I mean, that would be cool. That would be more prestige for the title. We want that. And there just aren't a lot of great options in the division right now.
They have, of course, they have the Wrestle Dynasty allegiance, and didn't they also say that CMLL talent will be there?
They did say that.
The 2 shows. So when we look at Master Wato's run in the Best of the Super Junior last year, he defeated Titan in the finals. That would be a cool match.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think Doki deserves credit as a champion. I think he's been one of the better workers in the company this year.
Absolutely.
Overall, and more consistent. And I think he's a guy that's really. I mean, I remember when he first came in. for his run. I mean, he came in as a replacement in the Best of Super Juniors. He wasn't even supposed to be in it originally, and they just came out with this weird video with Taichi, like, "Hey, here's this guy I found in Mexico."
And people used to make fun of him for years and years and years. Even when he was already really, really good in New Japan and really found his role, people were still making fun of the guy.
And that's the same thing we said with Finley earlier. I think a lot of people naturally, if you have a bad first step, that could haunt you forever. Like even after you've been good, or maybe not forever, but for a longer than it should. Yoshihashi as well, I mentioned. Like we've seen that kind of pattern continue, and he definitely was one of those guys. And when he started off, he struggled. Like it was a rough go of things for him, like legit bad foot. And I think he's really worked so hard to improve. I think he's got a lot of great things as champion you want. We've seen him even in this match. It was a crazy like Liger tribute deal in like very short. We saw the match versus Kanemaru. He was a leg selling type of match he was in. Had the big high spot based matches. He's done pretty much every kind of style you want. He's been very versatile this year. And that's another reason why I like him is that he's not one of these guys where all his matches are the same. He's actually done a lot of different stuff throughout this title reign. I'm sure that the Wato match will be the same. So I would be happy if he retained the title, but I think ultimately you want Wato. The only thing that I would dislike, because I'm totally fine with Wato winning as well, the thing that I would hate is if something happens where somebody interferes or there's some kind of goofy finish and it leads to another multi-man match at the Dome.
That's always a possibility with the Tokyo Dome.
You can't write it off.
No, you can't write it off either with the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title with the Intergalactic Jet Setters, Kevin Knight and Kushida, defeating Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney in a fairly good match, I thought. I really enjoyed what Knight and Kushida brought to the table. They are a team that they should really bring in more. They are, especially Kevin Knight, is someone that could really be an asset for the junior division. Yeah, that could also be another multi-man match at the Tokyo Dome with the junior title in balance. Who knows, with the TJP and Akira Francesco maybe coming into. And of course, TMDK defended the tag team title in the heavyweight scene against Bad Luck Fale and Caveman Arg, a match that I said on Twitter was probably better than most expected because Caveman Arg in the other team worked. Yeah. And Bad Luck Fale was there. Nichols and Hayes did what they could, I guess. That's the tag team scene in New Japan. Nothing to write home about.
Yeah.
And the final talking point that leaves us here, Dylan, is the the very unceremonious 25th anniversary match for Hiroshi Tanahashi as he teamed with Shota Umino and El Fantasmo in the Gladiator cosplay. Umino looked so dumb in that, by the way.
Why? What was this about?
It was for Gladiator 2.
Oh, okay. See, I guess my Hollywood knowledge is not enough. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. I was confused as well.
Yeah.
What a weird thing to do for your 25th anniversary. But then again, that shows what a company guy Tanahashi is. They defeated the House of Torture, Evil Kanemaru, and Yujiro. And after the match, Hiroshi Tanahashi announced that he will be retiring at the beginning of 2026. And when he stood there, it was very clear that he would do so because he was really fighting with his words and fighting with tears in his eyes. But I didn't think that this moment would come. I was of the understanding that Tanahashi would do this as long as he possibly can, even hold up. But maybe we're really at the point that his body is more broken down than Naito's, maybe. I recently began noticing that even with the high fly flow, Tanahashi is not able to do a very short jump anymore. He's just running into the guy. It looks really awful, and so this probably is for the best. But the question is, what will New Japan look like after Hiroshi Tanahashi? Nobody of us, Dylan, really knows.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, it's sad because he is such a legend, but I think we all know it's time. Nobody's like, no, we need him back. We can't lose him like this. Like the Tanahashi that we all know and love is not the same person that we're seeing these days. he's more or less best used as the third man of a tag team. So with that said, I think this is extremely financially smart of the company to announce this. I think you have so much potential for the next year. You have an end date. I still kind of disagree with them and him not being in the G1 this year, but just for business purposes. But if you're trying to save him, I think you have that excellent storyline already up your sleeve for next year. I would basically keep him in all like bubble wrap, like for everything outside of the absolute most important matches. Like you have the Dome match this year. He'll do something. They may put him in some kind of tag match at the AEW show, whatever. It doesn't matter. You have the one last title shot opportunity you could go with. Like that's so easy. One last G1. That's all you need out of this year, and then the retirement match, whatever it is. That thing is huge, like huge box office potential. Like all of those things. I have 2 questions for you about his retirement specifically.
Yeah,
because it's a point I'd like to make. And we'll see if you agree or disagree. And all the listeners out there, I'd love to know what you guys think too. I personally think it's a mistake to do this retirement show at Wrestle Kingdom. I think his retirement would have had his own dome show and would have surpassed Muto's, and you would have got 2 big domes out of it. Yeah, and I think that was a mistake. I get the feeling that, again, kind of like what I said about the title shot, like for his tradition, it needs to be at Wrestle Kingdom. I think for him being on Wrestle Kingdom 20 and ending it there seems poetic in some way. But from a business decision, I think you could have built a huge show around this retirement and, done a great number at the Dome. So that's my first question. So we agree on that.
Yep.
Second question. What's his retirement match, do you think?
Yeah, that is a really vital point. Who is getting that match? Is there someone of the new guard getting the rub from that retirement match? When you look at the guys he's aligned with, of course, Shota Umino comes to mind. Then again, you could also go to a guy like Yodatsuji, Roy Oiwa. They all come to mind for that opportunity. I think that is a decision that the company needs to think really hard and good about, who they are giving that to, because it could also lead to backstage quarrels within the guys that didn't get the rub from Tanahashi. So that's a really tough call for me. I was thinking that it doesn't have to be his retirement match per se, but it would be really good to have Tatsumi Fujinami in for one of those final matches. Yeah. He's the one guy from his training staff that is still around pro wrestling. They're still winning titles. Tatsumi Fujinami, the new Niigata tag team champion with his son Leona. That would be cool to have him in there. And as for the retirement, it has to be someone of the new generation.
They could always do a tag match as well.
Sure.
Like
Tanahashi might be better.
Yeah.
Might be better even for him.
Nope. Well, and then remember what they did with Liger's retirement.
Right.
There, which was the misguided attempt to push Dragon Lee in that match. Ultimately, that didn't really work out. But they could do that.
But even with a tag match, the question remains the same. Who is getting the rub from that?
I think someone would have to pin Tanahashi in that match.
Yeah, but who's that going to be?
But even then, it's not like he's been this hyper protected guy for a while now. So I think that's another reason why you can criticize that. I think for a box office, and maybe that's something they had in mind for why they didn't build a dome show around him, because they didn't want to risk him in a singles match in a main event scenario. And I think putting him in the undercard or the semi-main as a tag match, you get the historic, because you're going to get the ceremony and all that stuff and the video package and everyone saying thankful and the flowers and all that stuff. You're going to get all that at Wrestle Kingdom 20 for sure, whatever the match is, even if it's not the main event. But another thing is, it's going to be hard to say that's not the draw of the show over whatever. I mean, we're thinking a year ahead now. Like, whatever the title match would be is going to have this on the undercard to contend with overall. Do you think it's possible they don't just do a like blast from the past type of match, like calling Okada for one last Okada and Tanahashi match, something type of deal.
You know what? It's really sad that we probably will not get Shinsuke Nakamura because New Japan is not working with. Yeah, exactly. He's not working with the office that gets Shinsuke Nakamura these dates with Pro Wrestling Noah. That would be a match that would be the biggest blast from the past, obviously.
Do you think they would even attempt that? Like to reach out to WWE and be like, we'll make some kind of deal with you, but let us have Nakamura for this Dome show?
I think if Tanahashi calls for it, they would reach out.
Yeah, like I think they would. I think it's possible they try for that. And I think he would be into that, actually.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Or you could do it. What if it was Tanahashi and Nakamura in a tag match versus Umino and Tsuji, or Umino and Oya, maybe?
Sure.
Like bring back their tag team. What if Yoshitatsu gets his wish?
Oh,
and we see a return. They were very close friends in real life when Yoshitatsu was there the first time. We saw Tanahashi was integral in bringing Yoshitatsu back to New Japan when he got released from WWE as well. So I mean, obviously not a box office move, but I'm sure he'll be there. Maybe say something. Like maybe he'll be in the crowd. Like, something like that. He might buy a ticket to the show. No, we can't write that off. I think something like that I could see. Like I definitely agree with you that ultimately any retirement, in my opinion, should be about trying to put over someone new. Like that should always be your ultimate goal. And unless it's like you're going for a feel good ending. For example, like the Sting retirement at AEW. That was like perfectly done for what they wanted. And that's still actually kind of put over Darby too. So you could do something like that with Tanahashi, but I think where he's at and where he's been used, it's much better off what you said. And I personally think, regardless of his state of being and health and all of that, whatever match quality you can get, I personally would like to see a singles match to retirement. But I mean, they might not go with that. So we've thrown out some names. They're the obvious choices they have right now. Yep. We've thrown out some old school guys, which could be a lot of fun if they involve them in some way. There's options for sure, but they've got a year to think about it. Maybe one of these guys catches fire, in the next year, and by this time, a year from now, we're thinking, oh, it's got to be Oiwa, like versus Tanahashi. They've set it up something like that, So we do have a year to go, but it's interesting to think about.
Correct. Yes. So, Dylan, that leaves us with looking at what New Japan has in store for us. Coming up here, of course, Royal Quest. There's an entire card that I will get to see with all the wonderful people in attendance in the Crystal Palace National Sports Center this coming Sunday.
Which is not an actual Crystal Palace, as the football team let us know.
So we're still there. So, the new WXW World Tag Team Champions in match number 0. Oscar Leube and Yuto Nakashima go against Brandon White and Danny Jones. Taiji Ishimori and X go against Joe Lando and Danny Black. Mina Shirakawa and Kanji face Asumi and Danny Luna in the women's match on the show. Then we have a stretch of really interesting looking singles matches with Michael Oku against Kosei Fujita, Yota Tsuji against Drilla Maloney, Shota Umino against Callum Newman, and David Finlay against Taka Michinoku. Open weight match here.
That coward, not defending the title against Taka.
Maybe we'll still get the title match, who knows. We have LIJ, Tetsu Naito, Hiromu Takahashi, and Titan. They go against Roy Oiwa, Robbie Eagles, and I guess honorary TMDK member Mascara Dorada.
Yes.
For the strong openweight. Oh yeah, that's the tag title is still in place, right? Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols. They could as well just put the IWGP title on the line. Who cares? They defend the titles against Hiroshi Tanahashi and Tomohiro Ishii that had been announced before, and of course Zack Sabre Jr.'s first defense against Zanada. Good looking card, if you ask me.
Yeah, I like the women's match on the card very well. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Azumi. She's really great. I've been impressed with what I've seen of both Kanji and especially Danny Luna. I'm a fan of. Yeah, Shirakawa is certainly a wrestler. So they are coming together to make a good women's match on that show. Do you think this is who Ishimori's going to team with in the tag league? is going to be
I guess so.
Yeah, like that's why they're keeping this a secret,
Makes sense.
whoever this is. The singles matches, Taka and Finley should be a lot of fun. I think like Taka's always a fun like undercard goofball type of guy. The tag titles, I think you could see a title change, honestly, in that match. I think Tanahashi and Ishii would mean more to the American audience
I
than
guess
TMDK by a long shot, to be honest with you, with all due respect. Listen, nobody respects Mad Mikey Nichols more than I do. We know that. But not Haste that much, unfortunately.
No.
Zack and Sonata should be a good match. They've always had interesting chemistry together, I would say, in their prior matches. So, they had a good match in the G1. I think they'll have a good match here as well. So a worthy main event at the not Crystal Palace, and I will definitely be watching, if nothing else, to try and spot you in the crowd.
I have no idea if I'm actually sitting across the hard cam. I have no idea. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
So
well, listen, that's your first mistake, Strigga. As we know, as a true veteran of going to shows as a fan, with my one show that I went to earlier this year, and I was basically forced to go by my sister. I made sure our tickets were on the camera side so you could spot me on there. You did not do that research, unfortunately.
I might have done, but I forgot actually where I'm sitting.
Okay.
We'll see next.
DM me and let me know, and I'll try. I'll try and spot.
All right. You mentioned the Super Junior Tag League. We have 2 blocks of 6 teams. Block A has Tiger Mask and Capitan Suicida from CMLL, Ryusuke Taguchi and Dragon Daya from Dragon Gate. He's making his return again. That put the Dragon Gate fan base in disarray because they are thinking that New Japan is trying to poach Dragon Daya from Dragon Gate.
Interesting that Jay said in his interview that New Japan was not impressed with Dragon Daya.
Yeah, right.
So you must you maybe you don't have to worry that much. They don't even like him that much. They're teaming him with Taguchi. That's like punishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have Hiromu Takahashi and Bushi, Robbie Eagles and Kosei Fujita, Clark Connors and Drilla Maloney, and Sho and Yoshinobu Kanemaru. Block B has the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Champions with Kushida and Kevin Knight. The DKC and Ninja Mac, weird couple with tag team, whatever. Yo and Rocky Romero, TJP and Francesco Arquiga, and the Velocities, Jude, London, and Paris de Silva from Mexico, who obviously years ago had this great match with Aussie Open, and of course are one of the top tag teams in the Australian scene. Lots of match guide entries there from 2022 when they had their tour with Rev Pro in London. They had the rematch with Fletcher and Davis there as well. That should be a good addition to the junior tag team roster. Then we go to Power Struggle, where we of course get the final of the Junior Tag League and the number one contender or the number one contenders to the Junior Tag Team title. And as well at Power Struggle on November 4 in Osaka, we have the IWGP Tag Team title on the line with TMDK going against Hinari and Great Okan, who challenged at King of Pro-Wrestling. There is a special tag match, Hiroshi Tanahashi at El Fantasmo against Evil and Ren Narita. That could be setting up Fantasmo for a title shot for Ren Narita. Would make sense. Junior Heavyweight title, I mentioned it before, Doki defense against Master Wato, and Taichi challenges David Finlay for the Global Heavyweight Championship. Of course, Finlay made fun of Yuya Uemura, challenged him for the title. Of course, knowing that Uemura still is injured, Taichi came out very angry, dropped Finlay on his head. Good build-up.
Yeah, that was good stuff for sure. And another good direction for the Dome, Finlay versus Uemura.
Yep.
I think that could be a heck of a match when they get there. What do you think of this tag league lineup?
It is a tag league that I will probably not watch.
Very honest of you to say.
I will probably pick and choose, watch some of the matches that get shouted out, but
I mean,
I've come to a point in my life where these tag leagues, they are just too much for me, too time consuming, and just content that can be overlooked.
I would say, like, this A block is brutal, in my opinion. There's one team I would say is good, which is Eagles and Fujita. And besides that, every other person, there's one person I would say is good, which is Dragon Daya. And if Hiromu puts effort in, I will count him. But I have not liked his run like this year very much, and everyone else I just think is awful. So I like very boring and not interesting in Bushi's case, but not awful. So A block is just putrid. B block, it's cool to see the Velocities get a spot here. We always like the Australian representation here. DKC and Ninja back, yeah, but it's cool to see them. Though I like Ninja back. I think he's one of the more exciting guys.
Yes, it's just red from left field.
Yes, I do agree with that. It's nice to see Yo in the mix here as well. Catch 22 is great.
We forgot to talk about Yo, who 1 hour before King of Pro-Wrestling started, suddenly appeared in the ring and began training and disappeared again and never was seen on the show again.
What a return.
What a return.
I definitely say Wato's return definitely signifies that maybe he was of greater importance to the booking team, but he's like, hey, I'm here, guys. That's it. And we'll see who the Ishimori's mystery partner is. I have no idea who it could be, and it's not exactly an interesting question, to be honest, but we'll see. Maybe it'll be somebody good.
Dick Togo.
I think you would have just announced that if you wanted. You wouldn't make that a surprise, right?
Yeah,
you could have just said it was Togo in there. Maybe it'll be another other company.
I have the solution.
Yeah.
X is going to be Brahman Shu and Brahman K.
Just both of them.
Yes.
Reforming
the Sailor Boys.
They constitute, which he has alluded to multiple times in his New Japan run, to be fair. So he has. This was what the teasers were all paying off to.
Long-term storytelling here.
Yeah, the genius of Gato on display. But yes, like you said, I think much like you, many of our listeners will not watch it. But I will do my best to cover this insane tag league that they put together. For some reason, for some ungodly reason, I will try my best to watch it. I will not promise I watch every match, but I will watch definitely the first show, and we will go from there. And I very likely will ultimately cover all of these shows. So that should be fun to look to.
Good news to you, Dylan, is every single show is a New Japan World. So,
well, we'll talk about some other companies that doesn't have all their shows on their streaming services for their tournaments in the future.
Before we go to that, we go to Pro Wrestling Noah, and their show on the same day as King of Pro-Wrestling happened. I did a quick digest of the most important stuff, and obviously what jumps off the page there is the new faction that is called Team 2000X. In one of the least heated and at the same time most hated reveals in a long time, and as long as I can remember, there has not been a unmasking of a guy that got such a negative reaction out of a crowd. I mean, when Evil came back years ago as the Parea of Tetsuya Naito, there was no reaction to it because nobody knew who he was or recognized who he was. But here we had Two-Face Yoshitatsu, who is the bad guy now, and Dylan, oh my fucking god, Jack Morris. Jack Morris. What the hell? This guy was one of the best acts they had going as a babyface, one of the most reliable workers on the entire roster, who was on a great run, establishing himself as a babyface in Pro Wrestling Noah, and now had to come up with some bullshit and disingenuous reasons why he is turning heel on the company. And I mean, yes, of course, we have a cosplay guy in Kaito Kiyomiya in the main event, but it's not like that Jack Morris didn't get a chance. He did get chances. He was the global.
He was one of the most pushed guys in the company.
Yes, he was the national champion not too long. He was a double champion. Double champion not too long ago. What bullshit. What bullshit of a promo, what bullshit of a turn, and what bullshit of a reveal that was.
It was perfection. I would say, like, they hit everything wrong you want to do in the debut. Like, I feel like you have to try to screw up this bad. And they, whatever their goal was, They either accomplished it or just failed so miserably that they accomplished it somehow. What can you say? What can we say about Noah at this point? I mean, first of all, just right away, Team 2000? Like, it's
X.
2024.
Team 2000 X.
If this was 98, like, this would be cool.
Yes, Techno Team 2000, Dylan.
And again, that was 95 when they came out. If this were 30 years ago, this name could work. We're 20. It's so hyper and futuristic and new age and 24 years ago. What? Like I said, and I guess somehow they paid Shono. Like, the X is the way to get away from Shono. Like to not be sued, yes. I suppose. Like, no, it's totally different, Shono. It's not your group. It's Team 2000X. Like, totally different. Like I said, I don't know what to say. Like, I literally don't know what to say about this company.
I was puzzled by all of this.
What about Joker Tatsu? Why? Why?
I mean, they probably wanted to find a role for him because I guess he is one of the guys that is the tie-in for the WWE allegiance because of him talking English and being there. That's
why
has to be the case, but otherwise. And Jack Morris and Daga aligning himself with Yoshitatsu, it's just everything surrounding this. It feels really odd and off.
He's another guy. Like, Daga's got chance. Like, he got way more run with that title than he should have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, so this group, it's not passing the smell test. There are reasons for turning in general. And Yoshitatsu is just ridiculous that he's a part of this group. What possible upside is there? Like, I mean, again, say what you want, and we could say a lot of things about him. But when Jake came into Noah, the good-looking guys got over to the Noah fans. Like, there's no doubt about that. And I suppose they're trying to do a similar deal with Yoshitatsu now, with this new group. And I just don't think whatever they had in the other group, this one does not have whatsoever.
And at the point, we thought that there was going to be not a dumber name than good-looking guys or just 5 guys in New Japan, but here we are.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so, again, there's no originality to it at all. It's just such a weak... It shows you how little effort actually got put into the thought of all of this by whoever did it. And again, I don't blame Jack for this at all. Like, he's stuck in a role that really nobody could make sense of with the context of the reality of his run so far. So he's going to do his best, I'm sure. I have nothing against him as a talent whatsoever. I thought he's done more than good enough in his role. It's just all of this is just crazy. And right away, you've attached Yoshitatsu as a Joker cosplayer and a part of this, so there's really no hope for this to work, at least to us. Maybe. I mean, all of the reaction I've seen was negative towards this, and it's, how could you not be? I would say Japanese and English speakers both have felt that way. And just in general, this company, I mean, it's rough, right? Like, it is. We've been there with Noah. Like, we've been in down times and bad places and things like that. But this card they put out today, ooh, like, I mean, my goodness. Like, you look at these cage matches, even the main event does not have that great of a rating. It's just over 6.47.
Yeah, I was surprised. I thought the match was better than that.
I just think it's such an uninteresting match that no one, like, the lack of care sapped people's will to vote this higher.
It's unfortunate because Masa Kitamiya has really been on a good run this year. And I think this was the match that had the best crowd connection of any match that he has had so far. The crowd was really behind him for most part of the match, obviously knowing that he would not be winning the title, but they were behind him. And I thought he did well for himself. I liked the finishing stretch with the prison lock and the arm clutch there that he submitted Kaito in with at the last show in Shinjuku Face. which led to the figure 4 leg lock. Of course, you can always criticize that that's another Mutoism, but I thought it was a good match.
Another thing about this Yoshitatsu thing before I get to the main event, which was much better.
I'm sorry.
What happened to him in DDT?
I guess an office role in Pro Wrestling Noah happened to him.
And I mean, he kind of was presented more as a manager here of the group. He's kind of like their Taru, like for Voodoo Murders, I guess.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm sure he'll wrestle too. Like is this? You mentioned the WWE connection. Is this gonna Is he recruiting Jack and Daga for WWE now?
That would be the funniest outcome of them all.
Of all people. Like you said, yeah, this would only go to prove my constant harping on WWE's incompetence in Japan if this is their end game. Like, yes, we did it. We've got Yoshitatsu and Daga. Like I said, yes, that's what I want to believe is going on. But whatever happened, he's here now. He is the new Joker / Taru / Yoshitatsu person he is. Main event was good. I didn't think it was great. I would say it's one of those matches where it could have gone better. I think a big thing here that we have to respect. Kiyomiya, he has had a good run, and the crowd respected him as a challenger. I thought here this was a very good show. It had 1,300 fans in Corcoran.
Yep.
Very good show for Noah for sure. And the undercard was, I mean, not that great. To be honest with you.
No, not that great.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest match was probably the MMA thing they did.
Yeah.
I mean, great build-up having Oka on the losing side to a big match with Nakamura.
I actually really liked the tag title match.
The tag title match was good. I think a little underrated cage match.
Yeah.
They said.
Alejandro did good.
He's always good. Like I said, I'm a big fan, and I think that this Sugiura and Marufuji team works ultimately.
Yep.
And again, the crowd was into it. Keno's always good in his role. I don't think anybody thought that they would win, and I think that's another issue with a lot of these ratings. Nobody really bought Kiyomiya winning the belt, over Kaito. That wasn't going to happen. Everybody knew that. And even with the national title, Wagner, he's already been there and done that. He's probably not going to win the title versus Soya, and the tag bouts would have been a massive upset. So none of these title matches were that interesting, really. But they were pretty good matches, I would say, overall. And it was just a rough card from an interest standpoint. If you're looking at a drawing match, like I said, maybe the MMA match was the biggest. I don't think that was the best match or anything, but it was the match where you had Fujita and Barnett on there. Unless you count Akira in Saito's match, which was totally ridiculous. Why are you jobbing out Team Noah to these? Makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it makes no sense, no.
Yeah. That was one of the guys, I remember on one of our prior episodes, we were talking about who would Kaito face at January 1st. And Go was a person a lot of people said on our YouTube vids. And it's now he's on the losing side to Akira? Akira Nogami and Shiro Koshinaka?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, makes no sense. None of this booking is good. And it feels like, to me, they've thrown in the towel on even attempting to be good. So now their goal is we're going to have mystery people over and over and over. Yes, and there's another mystery person because they announced there will be a new member of All Rebellion that gets announced at their produce show next week.
We need more All Rebellion members. Taishi Osawa is not enough.
Who could it be?
I don't know.
Could Ozawa be the January 1st person versus Kaito?
Osawa versus Kaito?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why not? Why not?
Sounds like a very weak match for such a big show.
What are our options? Let's run through our options.
I'm guessing they could run with Kaito and Jack Morris.
That would at least have some build. Again, we don't like it, but at least it has build of some sort to it.
Yep.
And I mean, you can kind of afford to go with a weaker guy with Nakamura, exactly, on there.
Yes.
So either way works.
It's basically the same situation as last year. We also scrambled for the title match because we didn't know what would be in the main event. But then they also brought in. It was for the show with AJ Styles on it, right? There we scrambled for a title match. But yeah, it's the same situation.
And that had disastrous repercussions because Itamura, like, they jobbed him out right away on his return.
Yeah.
So that didn't work at all. If I was always going to lose, it's better to put somebody else in that spot, I would say.
So
I don't think they'll be the main event.
They said that the next challenger will be decided between Takashi Sugiura and Naomichi Marufuji. And I'm just looking at. I'm guessing that match will take place. I don't know if they announced it yet. I've not looked at
November 6th.
November 6th. Okay, so that's in Kurikan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they have the retirement. They have Akitoshi Saito's retirement, and then they only have another Kurikan scheduled for December 19. So they might as well run with the winner of Sugiura versus Marufuji as the challenger for Kaito.
For my fandom's sake, I hope it's Sugiura that wins.
But it's going to be Marufuji.
It'll very likely be Marufuji, unfortunately. I mean, he did it good enough against AJ. Like, that was a really strong match, actually. To be honest. Yeah, that was good. I think he could have a good match with Kaito. I mean, Sugiura could have a great match with Kaito, I think. But Marufuji is fine. I mean, it's a name. It's kind of like retreading the past. I'm glad that they're not doing this for the. If they do it for the January 1st show, I think that's a big miss. Like, even compared to some of these other guys, which are not great challengers on paper, but I think they're better than going back to these guys. I like them as the tag team. Again, that's a good role for them. It helps the titles. It'll help somebody who beats them for them. It's fine. It's fine, honestly. Like, whatever they're gonna do with Kaito, it just gets him. It bridges him to January 1st, and that's all you need out of that.
Yes. So I guess that is Pro Wrestling Noah, or is there anything else that you wanted to add?
What about Nakamura?
Nakamura, yeah, he's coming in to face Okazaki. It's going to be a fine match.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great that Oka's getting the spot.
Oh yeah, me too.
He's been one of their brightest people to me this year. He'll probably lose, but it's still good. Like, I would take this over pretty much anybody else, to be honest. Like, if they gave me an option, I guess maybe Ozawa, that would be a big deal. To try to fight him. But it's good. I thought that was I think that's a legit drawing card for Noah to have Nakamura on the show.
Yeah.
And I think Oka will be a very good opponent to get the best out of him. This is going to be like the litmus test for Nakamura, in terms of him in Japan, because him and Muto was going to be what it was going to be no matter what he did. It didn't even matter. Now we see. Is this where he's going to put enough effort in to have we're going to see maximum Nakamura. Like, whatever he brings in this match is going to be the best we can expect out of him for any future appearances. And I think that's interesting in and of itself. Like, if he delivers a big match and they have a great match in the main event, and we at least know that he still has a big match edge to him. If this match does not deliver and it's a flop main event, then you know that he's no good anymore. So I think that's interesting in and of itself, and I think it's doing the same stuff they've done a bunch of times in a row that was unsuccessful each time, pretty much. But with him specifically, his time was successful, but it was also against Muto. So we'll have to see. That's another thing. Now he is the top person on the show. It's not Muto's retirement run. We see how much he means to these Noah fans and the fans in general in Japan. So I think all of that is very interesting.
Yes. Well, yeah, Pro Wrestling Noah has a lot of wheels, a lot of things that they try to make work. Sometimes it's hits, sometimes it's misses. We'll see what the January 1st show. Well, I will probably be in attendance for that too. We'll see how that goes, that show. And another company that is having, another company, Pro Wrestling Noah, is not really having that good of a year, but a company that is having quite a good year with some solid attendances and some solid build-up for the next generation is, of course, All Japan Pro Wrestling. We've been talking about that all year long, and they had a stretch of good shows, nothing that really blew anybody away with the first set of the anniversary shows that they did here. I'm just pulling up the card. At the first show, they did the All Japan World Tag Team title match where Jun and Rei Saito defend against Hokuto Gun, Hokuto Omori, and Kumarashi. I really think that Kumarashi is doing a good role wherever he goes this year, really. If it's All Japan Pro Wrestling, if it's on the Indies with Kyushu Pro or Niigata Pro, Kumarashi is playing a good role. Jun and Rei Saito, obviously, here a solid defense for them against Hokuto Gun. Hokuto Omori looked good as well. So good All Japan World Tag Team title match. Something that I don't consider being really good in that company, one of the few weak parts, actually, Dylan, is the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title right now. I am not into that second title run of Naoki Doi.
But I'm not surprised, considering that's a belt that doesn't exist. You said the junior tag title.
The junior heavyweight title, sorry. I mean, that title run has not been good. 94 days, and title match against Musashi and against Inoue were fine matches. The one against Hikaru Sato was atrocious. We talked about that on this show. And this one against Dentamura was fine. Are they really treading water until Atsuki Aoyagi is coming back, Dylan?
Yeah, I feel like I said that last time.
Yeah.
And I think that nothing they've done has changed my mind on that. But I thought the match was solid. I thought the main event was solid. You know, this is another one where I think another issue with this show, it's like nobody really bought these guys winning the titles, like ultimately on there. So I think that was kind of a tough go of things. You know, the match was fine. Again, I thought they have a good skeleton of a really good match. And it was very professionally done. It just wasn't that interesting, ultimately, with Dan and Doi here. I thought the best match of the show was Hideki and Sato versus Hijikata and Ashino.
Sounds good. Yep.
Very nice to see Hijikata and not doing the Voodoo Murder stuff. It wasn't anything that's going to blow you away, but it was a good mid-card match on there. So, yeah. How much did Suwama not care about that match versus Inoue?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. And how bad was it that he did not care at all with Ryo Inoue challenging for the All Asia Tag Team title on the next show?
Yeah. That's it's all accurate. But
it's some very rough looking lariats from Suwama.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, this show did quite the good house with 853 in attendance. Looked good. But yeah, it was ultimately a fine show. Much like the one that had the All Asia Tag Team title match on the day thereafter in Numazu. Elpida, Rising Hayato, and Yuma Anzai defeated Musashi and Sekio Shioka in what I thought was a really, really good main event, especially Rising Hayato and Sekio Shioka had great chemistry and were really on a high pace in this match. Some great exchanges between them. Musashi and Anzai also looked good. So this was a really, really good main event for the show.
I thought Anzai looked so good in there against all the he was wrestling this junior style. Mm-hmm. And much has been said about Anzai's greatness this year, and all of them accurate. But to see him in this totally different scenario, working all of these junior heavyweights, I mean, him and Musashi had this crazy sequence where he flew in, went for the jumbo knee. Musashi stepped out of the way. Musashi tried to do this reverse crescent kick. Anzai ducked it. It was all in one fluid motion. It was like something out of a kung fu movie that they did. It was like a martial arts style stuff. It was so good. I thought he made. And another great thing about him, he has something I saw early on in Takeshita when he was the DDT ace. Anzai can wrestle and make everybody look good without losing any credibility himself. He still feels like the man in the company,
Yep.
But he elevated these guys and wrestled on their level effectively while still maintaining himself. I thought his performance was a masterclass as an ace level player. And obviously, the stuff with Hayato and Yoshioka, very fast paced, very well done. They were clicking in this match. This was a hell of a main event, in my opinion. I thought it was really good, and what a great run. A great way to cap off Musashi and Yoshioka's tag run. He's the guy that should be the champion, not Doi. To me, Yoshioka would be who I would put the singles belt on.
Yes, same. I thought so too.
Yeah, like I said, he's just really came in so hot into All Japan, and Musashi's gotten it together. He started off, he wasn't, his title match earlier on against Hayato wasn't that great. And now look at him. Now look at him go. Yeah, and him and Yoshioka are a great team. I mean, him and Doi had the junior match, but it wasn't that great. And now, he did have a match with Hayato as well. Neither of them were that great. None of his singles matches. But now he's teaming with this Yoshioka, and he's having a great run, man. I was so impressed, and he's a guy that I've always liked on a smaller level. We didn't get to see him enough to really say how great he is, but now he's really proving himself worthy. And Yoshioka, I just think, is one of the best. If you were ranking junior heavyweights in the country, he would be near the top of my personal list.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah,
he's excellent.
Great match.
Yes, so we are going to Korakuen Hall on October 22nd with, I'm guessing by now we have a full card. There's a lot of multi-man matches, of course, too. I guess the key match, of course, is going to be Yuma Aoyagi versus Ren Ayabe for the Triple Crown. What do you think of Yuma Aoyagi now in his second run, that he has gotten some more traction?
Also, before that, we need to talk about Cyrus squashing Jiro on here.
Great stuff.
Love it. Cyrus is the man. Like I said, I've always said it, and he only continues to endear himself more to me. Aoyagi, we kind of talked about it before. He has not gotten off to a great start, and he's in a tough spot again. After, anytime, not just Anzai, but anytime you follow what was a great title reign, it kind of puts you automatically behind the eight ball. You have to be that much better to really keep the momentum going. And I think starting off, they did not handle him as well as they could have. His match against Kento was, again, it wasn't their best match. It was good, it was fine, but it wasn't special. It wasn't what Anzai was doing. And then you just had him in these kind of meaningless roles, doing a lot of comedic stuff, And on this show that we just talked about, I mean, they had the build-up tag with him and Kento versus Ayabe and Honda, but this is going to be a real test for him, in my opinion. If he can deliver a huge match against Ayabe and bring the best out of him, then I think that's going to re-solidify him as a main event player that he is and should be. I think if it's another struggle, I think that we're going to have to ask some questions already. And it's a shame because, I mean, we're two defenses in. It's not that long of a reign. But like I said, we have to see what he does. And I love his work usually. Like last year's champion, I thought he did an excellent job. I thought his reign was well booked until the end. Obviously, plans changed. He unfortunately was the victim of what happened. And they've never really solidified him since. And I think they still haven't, even as the champion. So this match needs to deliver for both men. But I think there's more pressure on Aoyagi than Ayabe, even despite him winning the tournament.
Yeah, I guess so. I thought that on this weekend where they had their matches, Ayabe won once and Aoyagi won once. I think Aoyagi looked really strong in submitting Ren Ayabe. I think this match is going to go down to the point that Ayabe is just really lengthy and is getting out of the submissions that Yuma Aoyagi is throwing at him. That is why, Dylan, Yuma Aoyagi teased a new finishing move or a new signature move. Because, of course, Ayabe has a move that's called the Death Roulette. Aoyagi said that he has a new technique that it's called the Guess Roulette. Whatever that is supposed to mean.
Yeah, that's not really warming my heart, to be honest, this build. So again, I'm going to hold my opinion until after that match. But so far, it's not gotten off to a great start.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, the card overall has a bunch of multiple matches. We talked about the core matches before. Any new ideas who's going to be the partner for Zuwama?
It's being reported that it won't be Ishikawa, which is interesting.
Let's see.
So yeah, you know, I don't know. Like I said, I mean, I got no idea. Like I said, you know, I mean, that was the obvious choice. You know, it's been speculated that it may just end up being a 1-on-2 match. There.
Yes, which, he said how disastrous for his anniversary would that be if I was just having a 1-on-2 match.
Yeah, but he'll pull something out overall.
Guess so.
Maybe he'll just change his mind and they'll be like, oh no, it is Ishikawa after all. You know, so I don't know. Like I literally don't know who it would be.
Me neither.
Like I said, you know, like I said,
Tanahashi. How about that?
That would at least mean something overall. I mean, I don't know if there are any updates on how Joe Doring's doing. I know he had the surgery not that long ago. Yeah, if he's been secretly healed up, and that would be an amazing moment if that happened, and would have a lot of history if they did that. You know, I mean, that's just somebody with history from him. Again, I don't know I have no idea if he's doing okay or not. Obviously, I hope so, but there's just not a lot of options like otherwise for Suwama. Like, who could this be? I mean, your idea of Tanahashi, I think, makes perfect sense. Actually, I mean, there's no other option. Like, you know, I don't know. I mean, how lame would it be if it was Asher though? And they're like, we're returning runaway suplex.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. It has to be somebody else. But besides that, the only thing worse would be if it was Taru.
Wow.
What if it was Yoshitatsu?
Oh yeah, Yoshitatsu.
He also runs All Japan now, in addition to Noah.
Please no.
Tatsu Japan is alive and well. Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
So, looking at something beyond that, now I've closed the All Japan website. They announced some more matches for the upcoming tours,
including the biggest match.
Yes, we'll get to that, of course. Yes. The biggest match of them all. On October 27th, there will be another tag title match between the Saitos and Okutogun. This time it's Cyrus and TMDK's Hartley Jackson challenging for the title. We are going to see the debut of the rookies on that tour, of course, and the match that you mentioned it's not actually the match that where is the match? Wait a sec, it's somewhere down here. There it is. It is on the Giant Series show on October 30th. Jun Saito and Rei Saito go against Andre the Giant Panda and Kumagoro Hawkeye. The Bears unite to fight the brothers Dylan. The biggest match of them all.
A true dream match, I would say.
Yes.
I think we all have known and loved Kumagoro Hawkeye in the past. And now to see this company bring in the most natural dream match partner of him, Andre the Giant Panda.
Yes.
I will shout out Jess from Jumping Knee Pod. She mentioned this to me that it's a terrible move that is not for the tag belts, because we could have, in theory, had a Panda Bear as the 100th tag team champions. And yes. what an honor that would be for this Bear team. Why are they doing this? Who cares? It's Andre the Giant Panda and Kumagoro Hawkeye. Like, this is a legendary match on paper. The Saitos just continue to deliver bigger and bigger, and they have to be considered. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen in this match, but you have to give the Saitos their flowers as the tag team of the year at this point.
They're good. They're really good.
Yeah, so are the Bears.
Yes. Yeah, that's the most important stuff, I guess, so far for All Japan Pro Wrestling. Good tour, nothing too fancy, though. We'll get to more stuff when the Real World Tag League gets going in November. Yes, and I guess the final talking point that we have today, Dylan, Dragon Gate. They are running their King of Gate now with 3 blocks that they have announced. It is in block A, Mochizuki Jr., Ishin, Kota Minura, Luis Mante, Flamita, and Dragon Kid. In block B, Masaki Mochizuki, Suzumu Yokosuka, KZ, Hio, Madoka Kikuta, and Shun Skywalker. Jason Lee, block C, that is Jason Lee, Yamato, Big Boss Shimizu, Strong Machine J, Ben K, and Dragon Dyer. First off, what do you think about these blocks?
I think that the blocks are really strong. I think when you look at each one, they like there's really not a ton of weak links in this tournament. I would say
really good stuff.
Yeah, I would say like if you look at B block, if you had traded Hyo with anybody in C block, like B block could be an all-time like block to me. But I think Hyo will bring the crowd support for that too. It's interesting because he had this huge run at Dead or Alive, was this epic main player of the promotion. And it really feels like all of Big have taken big steps back recently. Like they haven't really capitalized on that momentum. Now, I mean, poor Jackie's not even in the tournament, which is a horrible shame.
Yeah, that is.
After where he was at. And Hyo and Monte don't feel that hot from a booking perspective. I think the fans still like them, though. A block, you get, people like Flamita coming back is a great thing.
Yes.
Coming in, he's going to have all interesting
matches. If he was returning after his run in the summer, but here he is. That's good.
Very good side for him and the company both.
Yeah.
And C block, C block is basically all hits in this block. I would say I like everybody in there. I think the winner is pretty much up in the air as well. You can go a lot of different directions.
Yeah, so when we look at the big show in November that is preceding the King of Gate, we have Yamato defending the Open the Dream Gate title against Kano, which is also something that came from left field. Basically, that is going to be in Eden Arena number 1. Is Yamato walking out the champion?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. I don't think there's any reason for Keno to be the champion at this point. Yeah, there's too much storyline stuff with Yamato as champion that's not been uncovered yet, in my opinion. Nothing against Keno, but this is a match that I feel like is a really good filler type of defense for them because obviously if Keno wins, that flips everything on its head. Like that changes the dynamic of the whole company pretty much. But I would say it's much more likely Yamato wins. And when he wins, you're getting revenge for that giraffe thing earlier in the year where, Keno beat him at the Noah show, the Monday Magic Sumo Hall show. That's cool and all, but I don't think that's anything that really grabs anybody. That was like one of the earliest matches, and the match didn't even mean anything. And Yamato beats Keno. It doesn't really mean anything. He just beats him and moves on, and we forget about it. So yeah.
I guess so. It's a way to.
It's a good match.
Yeah, it's a way to get some attention to that show.
Get an extra star power, fresh match.
Yes.
Work with Noah. Their relationship seems to be really good. Dragon Gate and Noah.
Yep. Other than that, of course, Dragon Dyer. He is on this show after the Super Junior Tag League ends. He's going to defend the Brave Gate title against his stablemate Ryoya Tanaka, who has been really good, doing good lately, wrapping up some wins, and also got a very good time limit draw against the Dragon Kid in the opener of one of the recent shows that I really liked. So he's challenging Dragon Dyer. Yeah, Dragon Dyer doing 2 tournaments back to back after the Super Junior Tag League ends, doing King of Gate as well. And the third match that has been announced so far has been built up very, very strongly throughout the last couple of weeks with Gold Class, Big Hog, and Zebrats ending up in a losing unit disbands 3-way match. The idea here is that Zebrats basically disregard any team that is only consisting of 3 members because remember, Gold Class lost BB Hulk because Zebrats pinned him in this match in Kurikan Hall on October 4. So both Big Hawk and Zebrats only have 3 members, and they teamed up against Zebrats. So Gold Class and Big Hawk only have 3 members. They teamed up against Zebrats, and that match ended with powder being thrown in the eyes of Benkei by, I think it was Jackie. They threw the powder. I'm not sure right now, but someone threw the powder in Benkei's eyes. And so this match resulted of this. Gold Class, Zebrats has really been pumped up with members. How many members do they have right now? I mean, some of them are injured. Johnny Valletta is back. They have Kota Minura. There is a lot of members. Kai still is there. What do you think of the end game of this losing unit disbands matches?
What do you think of, first and foremost, what do you think of Hulk being the one to lose that losing member match?
I think it was the most obvious and the easiest way to get out of the situation and to get to this next step. I think it makes a lot of sense for BB Hulk because with the addition of Mochizuki Jr. and the rejuvenation of that stable, I didn't really think that he made a lot of sense in that group anymore.
I do agree with that. I do think that it feels kind of both clever and cheap at the same time, though, to do this match so soon after, because let's say Gold Class loses. Then that match didn't matter at all. The one that Hulk lost.
That is what I'm ruling out, actually.
Yeah, exactly. So, and me too. I think the most interesting path is Zebrats losing.
I think they practically have to lose that match.
Yeah, I mean it's tough. And plus,
they are so bloated as a group. Yeah. It only makes sense to shake up everything with them losing.
And it allows you to move on to the next chapter of Shun Skywalker's story.
Exactly.
So I think you gain the most from Zebrats breaking up. However, to argue against that a little bit, I mean, I agree with you, but just to throw out an alternative perspective, at that point, you're killing the only heel group of the company. You would have, and the one with tenure. I mean, Zebrats goes back to the Berserk days, like the lineage of that group at the end of the day. So obviously RED, they had that blow off that turned into this. They would have to have a plan, and a plan very quick, to solidify a new heel group at that point.
I guess the seeds for that plan have already been sown. I don't know the word actually that I'm searching for. Sown. Okay. But they had this brief storyline with Shun Skywalker teasing the return of Masquerade in a heel role. So I guess that would be the direction they could go to.
And that would change some things up. They'd have to figure out what to do with the rest of these people at the end of the day.
Sure.
Maybe they could do some kind of war, between Shun's group and whoever leads the other group. I mean, I guess it would be Ishin. They're like Ishin, Kai, and
maybe
Kato when he comes back, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of people in the group, but I mean, big heel groups are a staple of DG in the past, again. And that show with Homari debuting, I said it at the time, that felt like the return of Prime DG we haven't seen in a long time. Yep. And it seems like they're trying to get back to that style now, after years of
Homari, as a fan of Shun Skywalker, he would be a perfect fit for heel Masquerade.
Yeah, he would kind of replace, Estrella in his role, kind of.
Yep, exactly.
And obviously have more upside. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, good point. Where would Minora be?
Minora would probably be with Shun Skywalker, I guess.
Yeah, that's what I would think. So yeah, it would be Minoru and Jason as a team again, and Hobari would be linked to Shun.
Right.
That could work. I do worry because it felt like the big angle they had, especially leading into this King of Gate, is all of the work they've done with Minoru and Yamato. And it feels like that's kind of fizzled out, like since Minoru's heel turn.
It's unfortunate because there was, for us, it was the logical storyline to go with for the end of the year.
And and that still could happen. I mean, he very well could win this tournament.
Could win the King of Gate. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I personally think whoever wins this tournament should not beat Yamato. Like, they should build to whoever bigger later. If I were to make a prediction, I would say Shun would be the favorite to win. And then you would save Minoru for later.
See, that would keep Shun strong despite losing his faction.
Yeah, it would be a good bounce back for him.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't even talked about the other team. What about Big Hug? They have cooled off lately.
They have cooled off significantly. Yeah, I still think they want to keep them around because they are popular to the crowd.
Yeah.
But there is not a lot to do with them, actually. They have really few things that you can attach yourself to.
Those are my dark horses too in the tournament. I think Hyo winning would be an emotional moment for the fans and kind of reheat him up and him losing makes perfect sense at the end after that as well. Monte could be another one that you kind of try to rebuild. He's really cooled off since he lost the belt significantly. Yeah. And like you said, there's just not a lot interesting to do with them right now. It feels like they're kind of
Yeah. What about Machine J?
Yeah, I think he's a very possible winner for sure.
Would fit into the storyline that Yamato thinks that the new generation isn't really those that carry the company right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that makes perfect sense as well. That wouldn't really play into this disband match much, but that's fine. Like I said, we can let the disband stuff be on its own, especially if Z-Brats does lose. That basically turns into a storyline of itself away from any titles or anything like that. Like whatever would come to that. Do you think it's possible? Because I also think this is a very big possibility at this point. One of the guys from either Big Hug or Gold Class turn and join Z-Brats and screw over their own team.
It's always possible.
Heels typically don't lose these disband matches. If you look at DG's history,
that is right. That is right.
I think that could be the play, and like somebody's going heel. Monte,
Rita.
Oh, I hate that. Rita going heel. Rita's so good and that makes no sense. Like for him to join back up with Minoru. I think it would be Mochi Jr. that turned from Gold Class.
Mochi Jr. makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Rita. I totally don't think that will happen. Like that just doesn't make any logical sense. Hyo and Rita will not turn. It would be one of the other four, in my opinion. Jackie turning would be interesting. In the end, that wouldn't make sense with him and Jason, but they totally wasted their potential feud since like I said, that was such an emotional thing, and they've blown it. like they've totally blown that, pretty much. But yeah, if I had to pick, it would be Mochi going heel over that. And again, that may not even happen. But again, we are betting against history by saying Z-Brats would lose. But I think that's the most interesting option of the three.
Yep, it's. I mean, yes.
And like you said, they've sown seeds for that already with the Masquerade stuff. Yeah, too.
Yeah, exactly. I know they lose sparsely in these situations, but this might just be one of those.
It could be.
It could be. Yes, so final talking point of this, of course, is the schedule for King of Gate. We will not see a lot of that tournament, unfortunately. The schedule was out, and there is 5 airings. We have the first day of the tournament on November 7th that is going to make air. Then we have November 29, November 30, December 1st and the final on December 3rd. That is going to be making tape, and everything in between is just out of the window. And that's got a lot of fans mad. And since the Dragon Gate network is the most expensive service of all of these Japanese pro wrestling services, that didn't come across well with the Dragon Gate fan base.
And justifiably so, I would say. Like, they need to be wary of, understanding that when you compare them, you have a direct comparison with Wrestle Universe.
Yeah.
It's getting harder to justify this when you have, you mentioned it on your Twitter, 4 shows in a month.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good enough. Like, ultimately, especially for the price point.
Yeah, I mean, in November, you're of course also getting the big show from Osaka. And I think, let me look at it right now. Do we have Buyuden is also at the end of November. That is a fine show. So you get 3 shows in November. I think the full schedule isn't out yet for November. I mean, it still is not a good look to have so few shows of your big tournament available for the audience. And that goes along with the company not doing the YouTube digests anymore. Jay has talked about that when he was on Open the Voice Gate a couple of months ago, that this is not going to be something that we can look for again. Yeah, it's not that good. When we look at, for example, at this month, we have 6 shows that make tape, and one of them is Prime Zone. So that's 5 shows realistically, plus a little addition with Prime Zone. And that for a price that is really, really high in comparison to other services. The November schedule hasn't been out yet, but you can expect 3 or 4 shows making tape in that month.
It may be, and I mean, I'm not saying this for sure. Jay is free. My DMs are always open, especially to him if he wants to correct this. It may be a telling sign that subscriptions to DG Network are not that strong.
I am very sure that those are not strong, because when I look at how the shows and matches are rated on Cage Match, there's very few that actually give ratings to Dragon Gate matches on Cage Match.
I've talked about that before. Yeah, that's been a metric I've seen as well. Like, even their big matches, it's like, I remember in the past, DG used to be a very healthy community in the English speaking language zone, and now it's like it's a totally niche product. With all, and it's, to me, I'll tell you, like I said, I was really bummed out after everything happened. Deservingly so, after everything that happened with Nanny. I was so sad and depressed. The first company I went to watch when I felt up to watching wrestling again was DG. Like I said, they were the company I went to. I think they're probably having, if not the best, one of the better years of any company right now. But the fact of the matter is, there's no doubt it's not at the level of a lot of other promotions in terms of hype level right now.
And Dragon Kid being announced for 16 karat gold next year is actually very much a reflection of that. I talked to the WXW office, and they obviously wanted someone from Dragon Gate, and they figured who they could get. And of course, Dragon Kid is a name that came to mind. The reaction to the announcement was very decisive, or very divisive, actually, with those that have been watching Dragon Gate for years and years and years, which of course includes us. The reaction was great. But for the newer audience that necessarily aren't the biggest fans of Dragon Gate, or aren't even aware what the company is doing, or don't even know the company, don't even know Dragon Kid, the reaction was very lukewarm for the announcement of Dragon Kid. And I guess that once again is another argument to your point that there is just not that much interest from international fans.
And I think from the company perspective, pretty much they're saying, hey, we could do these shows, these YouTube digests, but it's not worth the effort.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate, because that's that's a vicious circle in the end, right? Because
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah,
doing
that will drive away even more of your core audience, I guess.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, if you're not even going to try, you're not going to get more fans like that, like thinking like that. So, I think the YouTube Digest are a really big blow, personally. But again, they're not doing it. Like I said, they don't think it's worth it at this point. But it's unfortunate. Hopefully, something can change. Hopefully, someone eggs them on. There's enough reaction that we can, like, as fans, I definitely encourage everyone to tweet at people at Dragon Gate because if we can get enough, maybe they'll listen on that end. So if you want to see more, try and do that. Get these, not just the digest, but like you said, the King of Gate. This is your G1 pretty much. Like, this is your big tournament. Like, you can't go with having not that many shows on there. Very poor decision making on DG's part, and very disappointing to see.
Unfortunate, really, yes.
Yeah.
This, I guess, brings us to the end of our show, Dylan. I was really happy to do this one with you, talking about all the developments from this past weekend, which was a really busy weekend because of the holiday on Monday, Sports Day in Japan. There were a lot of shows that had to be covered and had to be watched for this one to go down, and I'm really glad that we went through it all.
Me too. It was a lot of fun. Always enjoy talking about all of this wrestling. I think there's a lot of good things happening right now. Again, especially New Japan, I definitely get the sense the reaction to them has changed for the better.
Yep.
People are getting really hype, and we're getting to that point now where Wrestle Kingdom's starting to shape, and come together. And I think that's getting a lot of people excited. And we've got a new champion that everyone loves. People are happy with how things are going. They're setting up different stuff. They haven't really pulled the trigger on anything yet, but you could see it in sight that they're ready to do stuff. That's very good. We'll see what comes of the AEW show they do on the 5th as well. That could be a very interesting. And the rest, I mean, we're heading in. One thing we didn't mention about the DG thing, the King of Gate, I wish that they showed all the shows, but I like that they're doing King of Gate this time now rather than how they did it last year, which was right in the middle of G1 and all of that stuff. I thought that was a kind of a poor decision to do all that then. I think it's a better suited to be before COVID World, ideally, but the second best time to do it would be this time. Yeah. I would say where there's no...
Right before Final Gate.
Yeah, exactly. And you're dealing with tag leagues up and down. It's not that big of a deal. Like every company's kind of on, the sidelines at the moment. So I think it's a good time to do it. But otherwise, a lot of cool stuff happening. A lot of people praised, are getting into Joshi a little bit more with the Dump show on Netflix that happened.
Oh yeah, Dump Matsumoto. Yeah. She's facing Sakai Ichikawa.
And indeed, and so is Tanahashi.
Yes. Yeah. For Konomama Ichikawa is going to retire Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Oh, that's true. That could be long-term storytelling from one retirement to the other.
That's also announced for the Osaka show, of course. The Matsumoto and Konomama Ichikawa.
Great use of publicity coming off the show, which is well liked. A lot of people like that show, and I do as well, obviously. She was on the Stardom show too at a horrific match, like one of the worst of the year. That multi-woman tag they had with the Hate Team and EXV. They did not have a very good match whatsoever. But that show did have an awesome angle with Hazuki attacking Starlight Kid. To be fair, so that was good. What else happened on that show? You had the Toni Storm was there. She faced Mayu. That was pretty good. Like I said, solid match, not too super special, but it was well enough. The main event of the show was Tom and Suzu. A good match. I wouldn't say great personally, but it was good. The Hazuki and Starlight match was good, and I really loved the angle afterward with Hazuki stripping her of her mask. It was really good. So good stuff there. They're doing decent stuff in Stardom. Mari Gold had their tournament end or whatever. That did set up Utami going after the belts. A lot of cool stuff going on. DDT had another Takeshi match. Like everybody loves him pretty much.
Yeah, he had 2 matches actually.
Yeah, true. Including
including
the Hirata match where he flexed on his dancing moves.
There, he was really happy doing that.
I know he loves wrestling. That's what's so cool about watching him is that he's clearly like a fan.
Yeah.
They've got Hiroshima going for the belt there against Shinya Aoki.
I call it for.
Yeah, should be a great match. Like I said, no doubt, good call on your part, and good call on the company's part as well. So every company's got a little something going on right now. A lot of fun stuff, and always very happy to cover it. Watch it first and foremost, but also cover it with you here and to all of the wonderful Eastern Lariat fans out there. So thank you guys so much for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed our very, very long-awaited return.
Yes, I love that. Through everything that goes on in our personal lives, we will always bounce back and catch up with what we missed in pro wrestling from Japan. So this has been the Eastern Lariat for now. Thank you all for listening, and goodbye.
Sayonara.